Hello, friends. It's spooky Ms. Tia here for another Sunday night spooky story. It's Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all of you mothers out there. I hope you have had a day where you were duly honored and loved and received many accolades. It's great to be here again tonight. I'm wearing my mother's brooch right there. I inherited that from my mother, who is somewhere nearby, but not where we can call her up on Mother's Day anymore. So I don't have any ghost stories about mothers with a mother theme, but I do have probably the mother of my spooky stories. This is a story that many of you may have heard in different venues. This is a story that I told on Jim Harold's campfire once, and I also told this story for Snap Judgment Spooked. And that was really fun, and I'm going to tell it to you tonight. This is the story of the Roadhouse Saloon. Now, this is a true story. It seems absolutely crazy. It seems made up, and when I see people's comments about this story, they're like, yeah, right, that could never. Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, this absolutely happened. It happened the way I'm going to tell you, and it blew my mind, and it still does when I think about it. I still get shivers when I think about how close we came to whatever. Okay, so this happened about more than 20 years ago, maybe almost 25 years ago. And I was spending the summer up in northwest Wisconsin. And that year, my uncle had recently acquired a camp. And there were all kinds of like cottages. They had remodeled the boys' camp cabins into little cottages. And that summer, all of the women in my generation, well, most of the women in my generation, siblings, cousins, families, young families with children, spent 6 weeks up at the camp. And it was great. It was so wonderful. And Bunce came up a lot, and we just, it was on a lake. It was awesome. We shared meals. We shared each other's company. It was just wonderful. Well, we had planned to do it the following year, but the first year that we did this, my husband Bunce, those of you who know me know him, he was working. We were living in Chicago, I think. No, anyway, he was working and coming up weekends, or he came up a few times, and we talked about looking into finding a way to earn a little summer money up north with music. So we were looking for some music venues to see if we can get just a few gigs and tide us over for while we were up there. So my friend Builder Bob, who was the caretaker of the place, a great guy. He was an artist. He was a potter and a painter, and he was a carpenter artist as well. He did beautiful carpentry work and was just a great, all-around great guy, Minnesota guy. And he was real good friends with Bunce and me, and we would spend a lot of time together in the evenings and other times. We just became really good friends. And he said that he had some pals who were musicians, and that maybe they would have some ideas for places, venues, where we might be able to look into scoring a gig or two the next summer. So it was a Saturday night, and this band was playing about, I guess it was about an hour and a half away outside of Ashland, Wisconsin. And he and I, the kids, this was the first summer. I remember this summer because it was the first summer that I did not have to get anyone a drink of water. Ezra, my youngest, was old enough to be able to reach and get his own drink. So it was like triumphantly independent of tiny ones. He was old enough to really have a little bit of independence. And so Bob and I, Bunce wasn't around, Bob and I decided we were going to go to this hear this band play. And my sisters would keep an eye on my kids. They were all sleeping in a bunk room, and so they took over those duties. And Bob and I set out just before the band, well, an hour and a half before the band was going to play, and we went to this venue outside of Ashland. And they were fun band, a dance band, and it was great. And we hung out, and they, at the break, I thought I'd be able to talk to them at the break, but there were a lot of other people there to see them and stuff. So we just hung out until after the band finished playing. And they finished about 1, I guess. And after they finished, before they broke down, they came and sat down with us. And I spoke to them, and they were great people. I can't even remember the band's name, but anyway, so we just exchanged numbers and information, and then we had to head back home. Now, we left the bar. We probably talked, it was after 2 before we left. It was probably just a little after 2 when we left the bar in Ashland. And we had taken, at the camp where we were, my uncle kept a garage full of these fast sports cars. It's true, it was like heaven. And we had taken one of the sports cars to go over there. It was this little, close to the ground, black, cool Batmobile kind of car. And so we get in the car, and we start heading back. We said goodbye and thank you and all that stuff. And we start driving back. Now, this particular night, it must have been a new moon, or else, and it must have been overcast, because it was immensely dark. You couldn't see stars in the sky. There, as I say, there was no moon, and there was no light. Once we got out of Ashland and started heading across country on the county roads, we were going through the woods, and it was the kind of dark that just beyond the headlights you could see nothing, and you could see where the headlights hit the side, you could see it, but it was like just beyond them, it was just swallowed up by the darkness. And we're just tootling along, there's music on the radio, and we're talking, and it had been a wonderful evening, and we were driving maybe 45 minutes or so, and I all of a sudden really had to pee. Now, this was not, I told Bob, watch for a roadside park or something, an outhouse, someplace that we could stop. Maybe there's an all-night gas station. Maybe there's someplace that we could stop, because the seatbelt was getting rather uncomfortable, and I was kind of like feeling fidgety. Now, being a teacher, you learn to have the holding power of a camel, because you sometimes have to go all day without using the bathroom. So I'm working on this, but it was getting pretty serious. And Bob said, well, we could just pull over, there's nobody here, and there wasn't. We hadn't passed a house. We hadn't passed a couple of dirt crossroads, but there was nothing. We hadn't seen a car in 40 minutes. And he said, I'll just pull over, and we could just, pee by the side of the road. Now, those of you who know me know that I'm handicapped, and I walk with a cane, and going pee in the woods is not an easy thing for me, because, well, to get explicit, I cannot squat. So I'm like, dude, you could pee in the woods if you want, if you have to go, because you've got outdoor plumbing, but I don't. So just hurry up so we can get home before I wet my pants here. So we're driving along, and we came out this county road and up where it hit 53, and we started heading south on US 53. And as we made the turn, we're driving along, and not too far after we got it, I looked. Now the highway was, it was not, now it's like a 4-lane divided. Then it wasn't quite a 4-lane, but it was divided. And I could see on the other side, on the east side, we were heading south. So on the east side, up ahead, I saw these lights. And as we're driving along, I see this red neon sign and this brown log building. And the neon sign says the Roadhouse Saloon. and it's got the windows and the beer signs are all lit up, and it's got an open sign on it. So I'm like, oh my God, we're saved. Pull in there. You've just saved my life. Just pull in there. It'll take me 5 minutes. And he says, well, we can't just walk in and go to the bathroom and go out. He says, besides, I've heard about this place. Everybody's talking about this place. They had some artist that was an artist for Disney Studios or something who had a cabin up in the area. And when the owners got this place, they remodeled this big dance floor, and there was this one big wall. And this artist painted this really big mural on the one wall of the bar, and everybody's talking about it. He says, so let's go in and we'll check out the mural. You can go to the bathroom. And I said, whatever, just get there so that I can get in and go to the bathroom. So we pull into the parking lot, and it's a gravel parking lot, and it's the only building in the parking lot. And there's maybe 3, 4, 5 on the out, old cars, like beat up old cars in the parking lot. And this is not unusual for that area. There's a lot of, it's like, those of you from Michigan, it's like the UP, where people drive their cars and fix their cars and then drive them some more and then fix them again and drive them some more. So old cars is not an unusual thing, but there were some old cars in the parking lot. And I said, oh, thank God. Pulled up right near the door. There was a spot right by the door. And we get out, and I pull myself out, and I've got my cane, and we walk in, and it had this big, heavy door. And it was, as soon as we opened the door, the light from the inside came on, and we stepped inside, and it was the weirdest thing. I mean, it's weirder now in retrospect, but at the time it was really unusual too, because everybody in the place turned and looked at us, and a couple of people stood up to watch us come in. And I'm feeling really self-conscious, and I really have to go pee. So I said to Bob, order a couple of beers so we're not just here for the mural in the bathroom. And I'm going to the bathroom. I'll be right out. So when you walked in the door, there was this big, like, horseshoe-shaped bar. It wasn't round, but it was, a 3-sided bar. And the bathroom was off this side of the bar. And so I just smiled at everybody, and as we walked in, they're like, hi! And I'm like, hi! And I hightailed it to the ladies' room. Now, I had noticed when we came in that there was I'll describe some of the people there. There was this bartender, and he's leaning on the bar, and he's this good-looking, fresh-faced, milk-drinking, farm boy-looking guy with his, this dark hair, and he's wearing one of those tank top t-shirts with big muscles, like he'd been hauling hay bales, and leaning on the bar, just smiling at us. And there were 3 ladies on the far side of the bar, and they were just sitting there with drinks, and these women looked like they'd been there since about 9 a.m. They look kind of like, how you've been when you've been sitting at a bar all day? Just kind of drawn and just sitting there with these cocktails in front of them. And, one was older, one was younger, with lots of makeup. And I'm just noticing this as I come in. And then I go past, I see another guy over by the dance floor. And then these couple other guys, other gentlemen over by by a pool table, standing by a pool table. And I had to walk between the bar and the pool table to get to the bathroom. So I'm going as fast as I can, glump, 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 glump. I get in there, and I open the door, and the light's off. And so I'm feeling for the switch, and I find the switch and turn on the light. And I got in the bathroom, and that felt good, I have to tell you. I just I think my eyes rolled in the back of my head. And so when I finished, I went and washed my hands and took some paper towel, and there was a trash bin right by there, and the trash bin was empty. And I noticed that because I thought to myself, oh, those ladies look like they've been here since about 9 a.m. and it does not look like anyone has washed their hands for a really long time. And I put the paper in the trash bin, and I thought, well, maybe they're getting ready to close and it already cleaned it up or something. I just kind of poo-pooed it and just let it alone and tried not to be judgy. And when I walked out, again, everybody goes, hi. And Bob walks up to me and he hands me a long neck Leinenkugel. And we walk up and everybody is watching us. Nobody's talking to each other. And as I come out of the bathroom, this this guy that was over by the dance floor, as we start walking across the dance floor to see the mural, he comes walking up with this big grin on his face to give us a high five, and just his up to high five with this big grin on his face. And I noticed that he had these really gnarly, discolored, brownish teeth. And he was kind of, teetering, and I'm like, hi, and we walked past and went over to check out this mural. And it was really a weird mural. It was an Old West scene. Remember, this is the Roadhouse Saloon. So it showed like a saloon scene from the Old West with those, those swinging doors in the background. And there was a piano and a piano player sitting there. And there was a woman standing by the piano singing, and there were there was a gunslinger in the middle, and there were some folks at a card table, and there was like a woman up on a stage like she was singing. So and the ladies were dressed like Miss Kitty and Gunsmoke kind of thing. It looked like a Hollywood Old West scene is what it looked like. But it was very weird. It was painted like a backdrop of a stage. Now, I don't know if any of you know about stagecraft, and when you paint a backdrop, you have to give it the illusion of it being real and then blending into its background. So the edges of this mural kind of faded into just painted grays, but it wasn't just gray. It was like gray with all kinds of flecks of other color in it, so it sort of like blended into its surrounding. And the way that the characters in the mural were lit, their bodies were a little contorted. It was kind of disturbing because it was not, the perspective was a little off. And also the lighting was like it was floor lit. So like if I were to take my candle and put it down here, this is how everything was lit. So you had extreme expressions, and it just seemed, and the colors were kind of garish, and it wasn't pleasant to look at. But Bob is saying, that yeah, some Disney artists, and I'm like, whoa, that's freaky, And as we're standing there, the gentleman with the brown teeth went over to the jukebox. Now, I have to tell you about the jukebox too, because this was something that really, you see some really amazing antique treasures in some of these places up in the Northwoods. But it was a Wurlitzer 45 records jukebox. And it had the bubbles that went around it. And it was lit. It was gorgeous. And I noticed it as we passed. And I'm like, whoa, records. That is so awesome. So as we're standing there, the gentleman was standing over by it, and he dropped a coin in, and it played Chubby Checkers, Let's Twist Again, like we did last summer. And Bob and I were standing now a little out, away from, there was like a platform with a railing in front of the mural that had like tables, but it was this big open dance floor. And so we're standing out sort of on the dance floor, and the brown-toothed, teetering gentleman comes up to me and says, "Hey, you want to dance?" And I'm like, ugh. And I just pointed to my cane and said, "Sorry, buddy, I can't dance." And I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to dance," But when the music came on, everybody else got up to dance. Now the three ladies, just without talking, got up from their stools and just kind of sauntered out onto the dance floor. The gentleman at the pool table, and I do not recall ever hearing the sound of a pool cue hitting a pool ball or a pool ball hitting another pool ball. It was like they were just standing around this pool table. And the music started, and they all went out on the dance floor and were sort of dancing with each other, but just sort of dancing with real flat expressions, and just old person dancing to Let's Twist Again like we did last summer. And I'm kind of looking at that, and Bob's got this big grin on his face. He was always, everything was an adventure to him. He's had a big old grin on his face, and the music stops, and we're like, whoa. When I'm thinking to myself, that was weird as shit. And then, when the music stopped, everybody just went back to their places without saying a word. Nobody's talking. The whole time the bartender's leaning on the bar, just grinning, watching the whole scene, just really digging it. He's having the time of his life watching all these characters. And so we turned back to the mural, and Bob nudges me, and he says, "Hey, look at that guy playing the piano." And I'm like, "Yeah, what?" He says, "No, look at the guy playing the piano." And he's saying this soft to me. And the other people are just sitting there drinking. And he says, "Who does that look like?" And I go to turn around. He says, No, don't turn around. Just try to remember. Who does that look like? And it looked like the guy with the brown teeth at the jukebox. And I'm like, oh, do. And then we started looking at each of the other people in the mural to see if they were there, and we were trying to be stealthy. Meanwhile, this dude at the jukebox drops another coin in. And instead of playing a different song, the very same song plays a second time. And what do you think all the people in the bar do? They get up, they shuffle onto the dance floor, and they start dancing exactly like they had before. A little mixed it up, this one facing that one facing this one, but dancing to the same song. And while they were dancing, it gave us a good excuse to look at between the mural and the people in the bar, and every single person in that bar was depicted in that painting. Every single person. The guy at the jukebox was the piano player. One of the ladies, the older lady, was sitting at the end of the bar. The lady with all the makeup was like a singer, looked like she was being a singer. Another lady is leaning over the pool players who were now playing poker. And we looked at each one, and it was the exact number of people also at that bar. There were no extras in the mural, and there were no extras in that bar. It was the exact number. And we were like, and feeling, do, we said to each other, like, whoa, this is really weird. And now I have to tell you, those of you who know me, you know that I have a really keen sense for ghosts. I can sense ghosts instantly. I know when there is a ghost around. I just do. I know when there is a haunting happening. I get this. I feel it. It's almost like a smell. I can feel it in my senses. I get butterflies in my stomach. I get this rush, and I just get this really uncomfortable feeling. And although this place felt a little creepy and not real safe, it didn't feel ghosty. I did not have any red flag go off that there was something of a ghostly presence going on. It did not register at all that way with me. But it did feel a little creepy as to, gosh, it's really late at night, and we're the strangers in a bar, and they all seem to know each other kind of stuff. But so it didn't feel perfectly safe, but it did not feel paranormally dangerous in any way until we noticed the everybody in there. And then we rationalized it like you always do. Well, we said, these people are obviously regulars, so I'll bet the artist painted them in. They're probably all related, the way they get up and dance with each other. So maybe cousins or family or something. We knew a lot about cousins and family. And so we had finished our beers and decided to go back to the bar and ask. Now, by this time, the music had stopped and everybody had gone back to their places, and these ladies are back with their cocktails, and I did not see anyone take a drink. I wasn't watching closely, But while they're sitting there, I mean, like right now, even I'm taking a sip. But they weren't. They were just kind of sitting there, one smoking a cigarette. This is when you can smoke in bars. And not talking, not moving. And so we went up to the bar and put the empties on the bar, and the bartender says, "Can I get you another?" And Bob says, "Yeah, sure, we'll have another." He says, "We were just looking at that mural. Everybody's talking about the mural. I live just south of here." And starts talking to the bartender, who's just smiling and nodding his head. And so Bob says, "So, is that you in the mural? You look like the guy that's like the gunfighter up there." And the guy's just going, nodding his head. He puts two beers up on the bar and nodding his head, not saying anything. And he said, "And those other guys, those guys over there, they look like the other people up there. Are you guys all, did the artist paint you in the mural? That's so cool." And he's just like, and no answer. It was like he didn't understand what we were saying. It was like we were at a bar in Thailand or something and trying to speak English to folks. And of course in Thailand, they probably understand us. But it was like he didn't know what, just no response. And so I asked the ladies across the bar. I said, "Ladies, I notice you're in that mural. It's so awesome that you got painted in that painting." And they're all just looking at me like this. I said, "Is that you up there?" I was like, this is just too weird. And Bob says, "Well, let's go get another look before we leave, and I'll ask later. Let's just go get another look at the mural, and we'll get out of here." And as we start walking across the dance floor, for the third time, the gentleman at the jukebox drops in another coin. And for the third time that night, "Let's Twist Again," like we did last summer, played on that Wurlitzer jukebox. And now I started getting a little chills. And I was like, something is wrong. Something is wrong here. And as we're walking across the floor, we're about 3/4 of the way through, and the people are getting up to get on the dance floor again. And I looked at the mural, and I about had a heart attack, because in that doorway with the swinging doors, the saloon swinging doors, right outside the doorway there were like two figures, and those two figures looked like they were about to enter into the bar. And I had not noticed. We had counted. Remember I said there were the exact number of people in the bar that were in the mural? And I had not noticed anyone in the background in that doorway just outside of the door. And then as we took a few more steps closer, I looked at the two people, and it was clearly a man and a woman. And the woman had a long skirt. And on the right side, underneath the door, you could see that the woman had a cane. I walked with a cane. And I was like, oh my God. And Bob grabs my arm and he said, "We're in the doorway. Let's get the fuck out of here." And it was, we just turned, and everybody stopped dancing, and we went through these people on the dance floor, and the bartender still there smiling, and the brown toothed guy starts walking towards us, and I'm like going as fast as I can, and we drop the beers on the bar and open that door and slam the door shut. And the minute that door closed, it was pitch black. It was as dark as if you had a thick blindfold over your eyes. You could see nothing. I could see nothing. I could hear nothing. The jukebox was in the middle of "Let's Twist Again" like we did last summer when we opened the door. And when we closed that door, it was silent. And it was pitch darkness. I froze. I didn't move. I didn't know if there was a step there. I did not want to fall. I did not want to fall and be stuck there. I wanted to get out of there. And Bob said, don't move. I'll go turn on the headlights. And fortunately, the car wasn't parked too far away. And I hear him going through the gravel, and I'm standing just outside the door. And it just, this rush over my whole body, like I was, my stomach was flipping, and I felt like I was starting to shake, and I was like, oh my God, turn on the goddamn lights, and just standing there in this blackness, and anything could have been in that blackness, even a big black bear. Anything could have been there right near me, and I would not have known it. Just standing in this abyss of darkness, and all of a sudden, blink, the lights went on. The car door opened, and the ding, 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 and the lights. And as soon as the lights went on from the car door, and he turned on those lights, I made my way into that car, got in. Before I even had my seatbelt out, he is peeling backwards. And as we pull back away from the building, there are the windows. There are the windows to the Roadhouse Saloon with the Ham's beer sign and the old style beer signs turned off, and those windows were pitch darkened. There was nothing going on inside. The place was empty inside. And as he backed the car up and turned, there were no cars in that parking lot. I just kind of gripped the console in my door, and we sped out of there with, through the gravel parking lot with gravel just spewing up, and I'm like, be careful, we don't crash. And we got out on that highway and just phew, as fast as we could go. Well, not as fast as that car could go. That car could go really fast, but we drove like bats out of hell away from that place. And as soon as we had like 10 miles behind us, Bob's just gripping the steering wheel and looking straight ahead, and I'm like, we're like totally like, what the hell just happened? And he turns to me as he's driving, and he said, did that really happen? And I'm like, yeah, I think that really happened. And he's like, what was that? And I said, I have no idea. He said, did we go in that place? I said, yes, we did. And he's like, I have to think about this. So we drove the rest of the way home. Now, this is the time that we got there was probably close to 3 o'clock in the morning. So we didn't get home. We drove pretty fast from there, and it was only about 30 minutes, which would have been 40, till we got back. And we just pulled in and, said goodnight, and I went into my cabin, and as I say, Bunce wasn't up there, and I got in my cabin. The kids were all sleeping in the bunkhouse, and I got in the bed, and I was like, oh my God. I felt like you would feel if you had just passed a truck and were in front of it, when behind it there was a 40-car pileup and all the small cars just got crushed. That's how I felt, like I had just escaped. I had no idea what. It so freaked me out. I couldn't sleep. I was like, how did I not know something was wrong? How did I not sense something was up? Was it, when I had not been drinking a lot? I think I had one beer at the bar with the band, and I had all my wits about me, but something happened that slipped right past me. So the next morning, I was telling my cousins and my sisters about this experience, and a couple of them are like, yeah, right, and E.T.I.'s telling another story, and my sister-in-law, especially my sister-in-law Carol, she said, she's not making that up, and others were like, she's not making that up, and then Bob came through, he was working, and he was still freaked out, and they said, hey, Bob, where'd you guys go last night? And he looked at me, and I said, tell him. And he said, I have no idea where we went, but it was at the Roadhouse Saloon. And they're like, oh, God, we have to go there. We have to go and check it out. And I'm like, no effing way. I am not going back to that place ever again for the rest of my life. I'm not going near that place ever again for the rest of my life. Well, let me tell you something about my sisters and my cousins and my sisters-in-law. It was about a week later. It's true. It was about a week later, but I would not go there late. I was not going there late at night. So it's early. It stays light till like 10 o'clock up north in the summertime. So this is about 8 o'clock, 8:30. And a group of us, 4 or 5 of us, went up to the Roadhouse Saloon. And I had this nauseous feeling in the pit of my stomach, and I'm like, oh my God, okay, I'm gonna just go see if those people are there, just check it out. And I had been talking about the jukebox, especially because, I mean, I would love to have a jukebox like that. That thing was amazing. If I wanted a jukebox, but it was just amazing. So we go in, and it's the exact same bar, and there's the mural up on the wall, except on the dance floor there are tables. Now maybe they moved the tables late at night for dancing, but there were tables and people were sitting and eating bar food and drinking. And I looked around, and there's this young woman tending bar. And I looked on the other side. I looked all around the bar. There were probably, 10 people in the bar. Maybe more, maybe a dozen or more. And I looked for any of the people that we had seen the previous Saturday night. And none were there. I did not see a single one. So my theory about them being regulars was kind of shot down. And then I noticed the jukebox, and I wanted to show off this jukebox, and I look, and it's this one that was like state of the art 25 years ago. It had CDs that dropped, and it was not a Wurlitzer. It did not have 45s. And I thought, well, maybe I was mistaken about the jukebox. I know I wasn't mistaken about the jukebox, but I'm trying to rationalize, which we kind of do to ourselves. And I went over and I looked at the selections, and nowhere on the selections was Chubby Checkers. Let's Twist Again like we did last summer. So I went we got a table, and I said, I'll go ask, I'll go get beers. I didn't there were no servers. You'd go to the bar and get your stuff. And so I went to the young woman, and I just, ordered cocktails for us or beers for us. And I said, so where's that other bartender that was here last week? And she said, what other bartender? I said, that young guy, he's got this, real big, beautiful smile, dark hair, super muscle-bound guy. And she's shaking her head, and she's saying, well, there's no bartender like that. And I said, he's the guy, and I pointed to the mural to show her the gunfighter, and I looked in the doorway of that mural, and there were no figures in that doorway. They were completely gone. And I was like, that kind of blew my mind. So I pointed to the gunfighter. I said, that gunfighter there, he looked like that. Are these people, who are these characters that are painted in the mural? It was like they were here last Saturday night. And she's like, no, those aren't people that live here. He just came and painted these characters. And I said, well, what about that other bartender? And she said, lady, my dad owns this place, and he and I are the only ones who tend bar here. And I said, but it was last Saturday night. It must have been almost 3 o'clock in the morning. It was really late, and we were coming down and saw the lights on and stopped. And she says, you must be thinking of another place, lady, because I was the only bartender last Saturday night, and I closed the place at midnight. And I was like, oh, okay then. And I kind of carried a bunch of beers with my sister-in-law Carol. We carried the drinks together. She had her Coca-Cola. And we sat down at a table, and Carol's eyes are like as big as saucers. And she's like, none of those people are real. And we're all looking at the mural, and I'm like, okay, we are having one drink, and we are leaving, and I'm not coming back to this place. So we didn't just have one drink because, well, my sisters. We stayed for quite a while. And the whole time we were there, lots of conversation, lots of country music played on the new jukebox, lots of folks. I used the bathroom, lots of paper towel in the bin. No sign of any of the people that were present in that bar that night, except in the mural. And they were still in that mural. Now, that sounds like something made up. I know it does. I absolutely know it does. I know it sounds just so bizarre. But there are people who just disappear all over America, all over the world, every day, and no one hears of them again. They're just gone. And nobody knew that Bob and I were going to be stopping at the Roadhouse Saloon. And if I had not told that story, if we hadn't gotten home to tell the story about what had happened, and all of us gone to check out the mural in the Roadhouse Saloon, no one in my family would ever have gone to the Roadhouse Saloon to see that mural. It wasn't like a destination place, and it was far enough away from where we were staying that nobody went there. There were other places we would go. And if we had not gotten out of there, if we hadn't noticed, if we hadn't paid attention and noticed, I don't know if we would still be there. And there would be two more people in that mural, in that doorway. Now, we rationalize things away all the time. We see things and we make an excuse for them. We say, oh, they're probably regulars. And they were painted because they were regulars. And once again, I got sick when I was a kid, and I've been pretty much crippled. I know that's not PC, but I've been physically challenged my whole life. And I've been in and out of wheelchairs, and I've walked with canes most of my life, or a cane, or some kind of helpful device. And I have to tell you that the thing that convinced me and that made it impossible to rationalize what we were seeing happen in that mural, it was like the color was starting to fill in. The figures were just gray, but as we were looking at it, remember how I told you how the grays had flecks of other color on the edge? Well, this was happening in the two figures in the doorway when we were there. And I was wearing a pink dinosaur skirt. Yes, I had a pink dinosaur skirt. It was awesome. Rita Meach made it for me. I loved it. And pink was starting to fill in there. But you could say, we could have just missed that because they're just shadows. They weren't filled out. But when I saw that cane, I knew that was me. And I knew that was Bob next to me. And it's because of that cane and that infirmity that I've suffered my whole life that I think we got out alive. Folks have asked me very often, I need to take a drink because that is probably of all of the things that have happened to me, and I've had really scary things happen to me. Really scary things happen to me as a kid and as an adult. And that incident still scares the poop out of me. I feel like it was within seconds of being gone forever and being there forever. Ugh. And I don't know, do you think that what that is. People have often asked me, what do you think happened? Was it a time slip? I don't think it was a time slip because it wasn't a different time. But you know what I think it was? I may be wrong. But I think it was like a dimensional slip. I know I've talked about this in other stories, that we live in a world with parallel worlds just existing all around us. Like how often do you pay attention to the insects around us, you know? I mean, only when they're buzzing and driving you crazy. As you drive down a country road, down a forest road, there's creatures, there's whole worlds of life just beyond the edge of the forest that we just drive past and don't notice. And they have their own lives. They have their own experiences. They have children. They have, you know, they have. There's so much that we as people just drive past or walk past and ignore around us. And I believe, and I have experienced some of the things that are around us that maybe aren't carbon-based life forms, that maybe aren't even dead people, that aren't formerly human people, that maybe there are whole worlds and existences that are right near us. And I think that night, that summer night, on that pitch black night, somehow Builder Bob and I slipped into a different dimension, just opened a door into a different dimension, into a parallel existence with folks just existing there. And we became a part of it for an hour or so. And pretty much by the skin of our teeth. And by me having a cane. Thank you very much. I am often grateful for this thing that seems like a bane, but has been a blessing in so many ways. I'm here to tell this story. And I've been able to live my life and continue to experience things beyond that late or early morning Saturday night at the Roadhouse Saloon. Yeah, it's a true story. You can even ask me. Go ahead, ask me if it's true. It is. Well, happy Mother's Day to all of you who are mothers, who are mothers in heart, and physically, in body, and spirit. The essence of motherhood is not just nurturing, although that's a big part of it. I believe the essence of motherhood is modeling for the younger ones, is showing the younger ones that they can be and do and make change and make this world a better place. So all those of you who do that, whatever your gender, whatever your status in terms of offspring, mother the planet, mother each other. I'll see you next Sunday. Peace out.